In this series, I like to share with you some of my thoughts about what psychologists have contributed to our understanding of human behavior and how our understanding of human behavior can be used to improve organizations and their effectiveness. This is because organizations are largely people, and if we know people, we can understand organizations. And if we understand also people, we can perhaps attribute a lot of our understanding to the way organizations function and improve them. The first psychologist I would like to pick up is Henry Murray. Born in 1893, lived for about 95 years. He was at Harvard for long years, started Harvard Psychological Clinic, and made a lot of contributions. I'm sure most of you have heard of the Thematic Apperception test, where you are shown a series of pictures and you are asked to write stories. And on the basis of stories, your personality is studied or your motives are inferred. This is what is called as TAT, or Thematic Apperception test. This was the invention of Dr. Henry A. Murray. Murray was essentially, I think to begin with, is a medical man. He did his both the MD in medicine as well as a PhD in biochemistry. So most of the early psychologists, you will find that they came from a strong science background and largely biology or medicine and anything that dealt with the understanding of human behavior and largely the physical part of the human behavior and so on. Murray's main contribution to our understanding of human behavior is his conceptualization that our behavior is nothing but a constellation of motives working at a given point of time. He identified a large number of motives, some 30 and odd different kind of motives, which include need for affection, need for affiliation, need for achievement, need for power, need for nurturance, need for order, need for recognition, need for harm avoidance, and so on. I think 30 different needs. Very interesting to look at this. He says all these needs operate at a given point of time. Some of them are dominant, some of them are not so dominant. And if you want to understand human behavior, you have to analyze the actions of a person all through his life. So you can't just conclude on the basis of observing once or twice, this is what he is primarily motivated with and so on. So understanding personality comes from understanding of the entire lifespan of an individual. Murray also conceptualized another term, what he called as press. For every need you have, there is an environmental counterpart which is called press. For example, you have a high drive for achievement. You want to constantly achieve something, excel at something, take challenging kind of tasks and things like that. The environment in which you are living, it may be the family, it may be the organization, and nowadays we largely talk of the organization. The organization should create an environment in which your achievement motivation is nurtured. This is what McClellan calls as Murray calls as press. McClellan, of course, subsequently worked on Murray's 4 important motives and then developed his own achievement motivation theory. In one of my subsequent sessions, I will talk of McClellan. But Murray's need press is a very interesting kind of concept. So for every motivation you have a counterpart in the organization called press. If you have a constellation of needs and the counterpart of the environment, the press, does not match with your needs, then there is likely to be a congruence. You will either leave the organization or you will try to impact the organization and things of that kind. So this is a very interesting need press theory, and one can predict, I think, a lot of things in the organization using this need and press. So to recapitulate once again, need is what you inherently feel at a given point of time. It is decided by the personal goal you have. And press is what the environment or the context, either your organization or institution where you work, or maybe your family or the society, what is it that they provide for you to cater to your needs or not. So the needs can be assessed by a thematic apperception test, and the press can be assessed by asking questions like how do you perceive your environment and so on. A large number of organizational climate surveys are based on Murray's original need press theory and so on. Of course, in the recent past, we don't go in that particular kind of a way. Now, applying the need press theory to organizational diagnosis, it's very simple. You pick up from the list of Murray's needs. You can go to internet and then type Henry Murray's name, and you will get a whole list of needs, or go through any book, and from the list of needs he supplies, you pick up what you consider as most appropriate for your organization and constitute an inventory to measure the extent to which an individual, the questionnaire has got to be such that the individual should say, I love doing things which give me challenges, this is achievement. I love to be with people, this is affiliation. I like to find situations where I can have an impact on the other person, maybe power. I like to nurture people around, I like to coach, I like to provide support for people who are around, need for nurturance and so on. So you can create a need questionnaire, and you can also create a counterpart press kind of a questionnaire and administer it in an institution and see the gap between the extent to which the individuals in the organization have certain profile of needs and the extent to which the organization offers these needs. Of course, there are a whole lot of questions whether the organization should be in the business of catering to the individual needs or not, what is the extent to which they can go, if they can't offer the press for catering to all the needs of an individual, can they create an environment in which certain needs can be catered, can they recruit people with certain kind of motivational profiles, all these kinds of issues will come into picture. But I think this is a beautiful kind of a framework Henry Murray has given. So using Henry Murray's need press framework, we can make a good diagnosis of an organization and use it for designing and changing organizations so that organizations can cater to the motivational profiles of different people. Of course, this is all depends upon the philosophy that you have, but this is a very interesting conceptualization Henry Murray has provided. In fact, you may be interested in reading some of his books on his own theory and his own approach to personality and so on. So we can conceptualize an organization as consisting of a constellation of motivations, largely defined by a group of people who manage the organization, who design the organization, and also a constellation of forces working on them at a given point of time, partly what they create in the organization and partly what the country where they live creates. So the press that operate on the top management at a given point of time is much larger, whereas the press that operate on the individual employees in a company are much more narrower and are limited to this. So you can come up with various hypotheses, various situations and various frameworks on influencing organizational change without impacting the rest of the world, or impacting organizational change by looking at what is happening, adjusting yourself to the environmental press and things like that. A whole lot of theories are possible, but the entire concept of need, press, congruence and non-congruence is a very interesting kind of a concept Henry Murray has given. So this is one of the foundations. In the next lecture, I'll talk of in a short way about what can we learn from Sigmund Freud, Alfred Adler and Carl Jung, applying their theories and analysis to organizations. So human behavior applied to organizational development. I hope you enjoyed the short talk. If you have, I think do give us some feedback. Thank you from TVRLS.